Have you ever helped someone without expecting anything in return? Helen did that every single day. She worked at a small cafe, and even when she was exhausted, she never failed to serve the same old man with a sincere smile. She didn't know his name or why he kept coming back, but there was something in his eyes, a story the years had tried to hide. And it was in that simple routine between one cup and another that fate decided to change everything. Because sometimes the smallest act of kindness can lead to the most unexpected turning point in life. Before I tell you what happened that morning, I want to ask you, with all my heart, to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, because what comes next will touch your heart in ways you can't imagine.
Helen was known in the small corner cafe of the city, not for the size of her smile, but for the sincerity with which she offered every act of kindness. Since she was young, she had learned from her mother that kindness was an invisible currency that, although it didn't yield immediate interest, always found its way back in unexpected forms. She worked exhausting shifts, cleaned tables, made coffee, and still found time to listen to the stories of lonely customers, offering honest advice or simply a patient ear. Despite her simple life and constant financial struggles, Helen never complained. She felt that every smile she inspired, every word of comfort she gave, was worth more than any amount of money. Her days were marked by small gestures that many considered insignificant. The elderly lady who came to the cafe every morning received special attention, as did the tired man who always ordered only water and spent hours staring at the newspaper. Helen believed that no one should go unnoticed. The cafe, though modest, was her daily stage of small battles and invisible victories. Her coworkers often complained about demanding customers, low wages, and long hours on their feet. But Helen remained steady, smiling even when her back ached, because she understood that every act of kindness was a seed planted, even if no one noticed it at the time. She didn't do it for recognition. She did it because she couldn't be any other way. On that particular morning, like every other, Helen adjusted her uniform, carefully wiped the counter, and looked out at the busy street. Her eyes, bright and observant, caught every detail, every hurried passerby. Then she noticed an elderly man walk in, dressed simply, yet with a deep gaze that seemed to carry the weight of many stories. Helen felt a warmth in her chest, as if she instinctively knew that this encounter would change everything. The cafe began to fill, voices rising, the hiss of the coffee machines filling the air. Helen moved gracefully, serving, smiling, helping, while always keeping an eye on the quiet old man in the corner. He ordered something simple, almost as if he wanted to remain unnoticed. But Helen's intuition told her there was something different about him. It was one of those rare moments when life seems to conspire to align the paths that are meant to cross. What Helen does next, something that seems so small, will set in motion a series of events no one could have predicted. Get ready to discover that even the smallest acts of kindness can change destinies and defy expectations.
The next morning, the mysterious man returned, He sat at the same table by the window and ordered the same black coffee. Helen, noticing his trembling hands, saw him struggle to open the sugar packet. Without a second thought, she walked over, opened it for him, and stirred the coffee gently. "I hope it's to your liking, sir," she said with a tender smile. He simply nodded, avoiding her gaze, but there was something in his expression, a slight tremble of his lips that spoke more than 1,000 words. Days went by, and Helen began to notice small details about him. The worn wool coat, the distant look, the quiet stillness. Leonard seemed like a man forgotten by time, someone carrying the weight of memories he preferred to keep to himself. Still, she never failed to greet him with a smile and a genuine good morning. One morning, she noticed he was shaking more than usual. So, discreetly, she placed an extra piece of bread and a warm glass of milk beside his coffee. Helen looked up, surprised. "Is this on the menu?" he asked, his voice hoarse but kind. "It's on my heart," she replied, with a soft laugh. That simple phrase broke something inside him. For the first time, Leonard smiled. And in that moment, something invisible was born, a silent bond between two lonely souls. She had no idea that every one of her gestures was being closely observed, and that this quiet old man was not who he appeared to be. Helen's coworkers, however, didn't view her kindness kindly. "You're wasting your time on him," one of them said harshly. "He never tips, never talks, probably just another grumpy old man." But Helen didn't care. She kept serving Leonard with warmth day after day, believing that doing good without expecting anything in return was the only way to truly change the world, even if it was just the world of one person. And as the coffee brewed and life went on, Leonard remained there, in the same corner, quietly watching her every gesture, every word, as if witnessing something rare, a purity that time had almost erased from humanity. Hold on tight, because what seemed like just a simple coffee shared between two strangers was about to become something much greater, and Helen's destiny was about to change forever.
Time went by, and the cafe stayed busy. But the comments about Helen began to grow louder. The manager said, "You should stop treating that old man like he's royalty. He never leaves a tip, just takes up space. A good customer is one who spends money." Helen listened in silence. She knew her job was to serve, but to her, serving meant more than carrying plates and cups. It was an act of love. Even so, the stares and whispers started to sting. People mocked her, saying she had too much pity, that she was naive. One day, Leonard dropped a coin while trying to pay. Before he could bend down, Helen picked it up and gently placed it back on the table. "You don't need to worry about change, sir. Just come back tomorrow, all right?" The other waiters laughed. "Oh, she thinks she's a saint now?" That night, as Helen closed the cafe, she stayed behind, wiping the counter alone. The words echoed in her mind. Was she really foolish for believing in kindness? Deep down, she knew she wasn't. She knew that if she ever let the world harden her heart, she would stop being herself. Leonard noticed the sadness in her eyes in the following days, but said nothing. He kept coming every day, as if his quiet presence could somehow protect her. And without her knowing, he had already made a decision, one that would change her life and reveal who he really was. And now is when the story will truly start to surprise you, because Helen's life was about to be turned upside down, and not just because of a cup of coffee. One morning, Leonard didn't show up. Helen waited. The clock struck 7:30, then 8. She looked toward the door every time the bell rang, but he never walked in. Something inside her whispered that something was wrong. The next day, his absence repeated, and by the third day, the silence in the corner by the window seemed to scream. The manager just muttered, "Maybe he's dead." The words cut like a knife. On Wednesday, Helen arrived at the cafe with a heavy heart. Then something unexpected happened. 4 men in suits walked in, accompanied by a lawyer. They looked around until the lawyer's eyes met hers. "Ms. Helen Moore?" he asked in a firm tone. "Yes," she replied, startled. The man took a deep breath. "My name is Marcus Davies. I was the personal attorney of Mr. Leonard Whitmore. I've been instructed to bring you to our office immediately." The name Whitmore sounded familiar, but she couldn't quite place it. Only when the lawyer spoke his next words did her hands begin to tremble. "Mr. Leonard passed away last night." The cup slipped from her hands. Coffee spilled across the floor, mixing with the tears that began to fall. Leonard was gone. But why did they want to take her? You think that's shocking? Just wait, because what Helen was about to discover would leave the entire cafe in absolute silence. In the luxurious Whitmore family office, Helen sat nervously. Around her, expensive furniture and old portraits contrasted sharply with her simple clothes. Marcus opened a leather folder and said calmly, "Mr. Leonard Whitmore was the patriarch of a billion-dollar empire, and he left a will. He specifically requested your presence for its reading." Helen was speechless. Leonard? A billionaire? When the will was read, everyone was stunned. Leonard had left half of his fortune to Helen Moore. The other heir, Caleb Whitmore, his son, jumped to his feet in outrage. "This is ridiculous. That woman manipulated him. She was just a waitress." But Marcus calmly confirmed. It was his explicit wish. He said she was the only person who treated him like a human being, not like a fortune. Tears streamed down Helen's face. "I never wanted anything from him. I just wanted him to know he wasn't alone." But fate had already spoken, and Leonard's legacy of kindness would become her inheritance. Yet the most astonishing part was still to come, because what Caleb would do next would prove how greed can blind even the wealthiest of hearts. Caleb tried to contest the will. He claimed that Helen had deceived his father, hired lawyers, and spread lies. But the truth prevailed. The court upheld Leonard's decision. Months later, Helen founded the Leonard Whitmore Foundation, dedicated to providing meals and shelter for abandoned elderly people. She didn't use the money for luxury, but to continue doing what she had always done, caring for others. Caleb, ruined by his own arrogance, watched his name fade from the empire. And Helen, with humility and faith, proved that true wealth lies in the love and gratitude we leave behind in the world. And if you think you already understand this story, think again, because the final lesson might just change the way you see life. The story of Helen and Leonard is a powerful reminder that life rewards pure hearts, even when the world seems not to notice.
Helen never sought wealth, only to spread kindness. And in the end, she received more than money. She found purpose. Never underestimate the power of a simple gesture. Sometimes the smile you offer a stranger is the invisible thread that weaves destinies together. Helen discovered this in the most unexpected way. The man she saw as a lonely customer was in truth the angel who would change her future. The kindness you give today may return multiplied tomorrow. And you? What would your turning point be? If this story touched your heart, share in the comments what you would have done in Helen's place. And don't forget, the next inspiring story is already appearing on your screen. Because on Light and Live Stories, every gesture counts.